Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Hey everyone, Sue here from 1A Auto. Today we have a 2011 Hyundai Sonata in the shop, and I'm going to show you how to replace the rear calipers. If you need any parts for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1AAuto.com. 21mm socket, and we're going to take the wheel off. I've still got the weight of the vehicle on the tire so that I can break the lug nuts free without the tire spinning. Now I'm going to bring it up, take it off by hand using my 2-post lift. You can use a jack and jack stands at home. Now with the car up in the air, I can take the lug nuts completely off. Okay. I always open the bleeder screw before I start a brake job so that I can push the piston back and make sure the caliper is good. But I'm already going to tell you I've already done that, and the piston is seized and the bleeder screw is seized. But let's give it a whirl on camera, and if we break it, we break it because I'm replacing the caliper anyways. Yeah, there you go. So now you have a broken bleeder screw. You have 2 ways to do this. Open this. This is what next step I would do if I was unaware that the caliper was good, bad, or indifferent. I didn't have the money to replace it. I would take the brake hose off so that the fluid would come through here instead of back into the ABS system. And I would compress now this caliper. So I'm going to take the actual caliper off the bracket. By the way, that bolt for the banjo bolt for that flex hose was a 12mm socket, and the mounting bolts are a 14. These are the slider bolts. And that's spinning. Let's see if we can get the top one. So we need a wrench. So I'm going to hold the slider pin and undo the mounting bolt to the slider pin. Dismount the caliper from the bracket. And I'm going to go get something to squeeze the piston. I'm going to use a pair of welding clamp pliers, locking pliers, and I'm going to push this piston back. Confirm that it's worth trying to fix if I want to fix it, or just replace it. So I got the fluid coming out of the back of the actual piston housing, caliper, where the flex hose meets. And that tells me that that piston's good. So if I'm low on funds, now I would just mount this, take it over to a vise, someplace steady, and I would try to take this out with an easy out or drill it out. The caliper bracket that mounts to the knuckle is 2 mounting bolts. One's on the top here, very noticeable, you can see it out front. It's a 14mm wrench or a socket. The other one is right here inside behind this trailing arm. So you're not going to take a trailing arm out to get that bolt out. So I'm going to put a 14mm wrench in here. Let's see if we can break that free. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the top one completely out, and then I'm going to just loosen this and pull on the bracket so that the bolt can stay in there and act like a vise in a sense of pushing it out. So we don't have to worry about bottoming the actual wrench out. Nice. Okay. Almost at the end of the bolt. When I saw a little bit of daylight between the bracket and the knuckle, I sprayed in there some rust inhibitor, so penetrating spray. So now we're at the point where the bolt can't go further this way because this caliper bracket can't go anymore this way because the rotor is stopping it. So now I'm going to dismount my rotor and hope to get a little bit more room to get that bolt out. So these are mounting screws. You just use an impact driver screwdriver bit. And you break them free. There you go. So now I just grabbed a little flathead pry bar, you use a screwdriver, and I'm pushing this bracket away from the knuckle so that I have guarantee that that bolt is bottomed out inside, so I have the freedom to move my wrench back and forth and remount it every time so I can finish turning this bolt out. So I ended up changing it down to a open-end wrench so that I could max that bolt out right to this trailing arm to get this bracket out. So the reason I didn't want to do it the way it's supposed to be done, obviously, is to remove this trailing arm because you can see the condition of this arm. And these bolts go into this subframe, and if that's rotted and rusted in there, it's going to snap off. But I'm going to spray it, heat it up, take this out to reinstall it, because the bolt is longer than I expected it to be. There we go. Now we can take the rotor off. We can actually see the e-brake shoes, the condition they're in. They're in good shape. The bonding's not moving. That's a plus. So I'm going to remove the rear upper control arm so I have access to this mounting bolt on the caliper bracket, 19mm socket, and a wrench on the other side. And I have pre-sprayed this. Here we go. 19mm up here too, and I'm going to loosen up the upper control arm inner bolt. Let's see if we can get some movement out of this. Maybe we don't have to take that bolt all the way out. Just going to take a pry bar. Now I'm going to clean the hub surface before I remount my rotor, just taking any rust buildup off. Closest to the hub, center of it, that's where a lot of it builds up. You always want a smooth mounting surface so you don't have it uneven braking, cause a pulsation. Give that a clean. I'm gonna clean the e-brake shoes while I'm here. Get rid of that brake buildup. Now I can find the mounting holes. Place my rotor on. See the two slotted holes line up. And I can install my bolts. They're cone-shaped with a Phillips head on them. You don't want to put any thread lock on there. You want these things to come off again and again to reuse them. Now I can clean this outer surface, get that packaging oil off. So here's our new caliper, and I just wanted to show you what I'm going to do to my new caliper, and you can do it to the old one if you're not replacing your calipers. If your old caliper, you should already have it dismounted, actually from the caliper bracket. That's a 14 and the inner one is a 17. Now, even though this is new and a good caliper company will do what I'm about to do, I'm going to show you the steps to do it to your old caliper. And that way I like to double check also, because I've had calipers that should have been lubricated and they're not, so it's not going to work out. So you're going to take your caliper bracket and either clean up your hardware or put new hardware on. If you have the old caliper, you're going to take a wire brush right here and get rid of any rust buildup and debris. Clean it. And you're going to put a thin coat of caliper grease, or in this case I have high temp silicone. I just want a thin, small coat so it keeps water from building up underneath and rust. And then I'll install my shim. It's hardware for the caliper actually. I'm going to do the same to this side. Now once you've cleaned your bracket, put your hardware on. If you didn't get new hardware, take a wire brush to the both front and back side of the tins, and do not put any silicone or caliper grease on the mounting surface that the pads are going to be hitting. Now we're going to take the slider pins out. Let's see if I can get in there. Oh yeah, well, that's got grease in it. Let's make sure this side does. Yep. Kind of sticks a little bit, but see that? I don't think there's any grease deep down inside that pin. So I'm going to take this off. So I got it out, and there's plenty of caliper grease in there, but there is a high spot where it was horned out. Right there, won't turn. It's a good thing to examine your calipers even though they're new. You know, that's got quite a bit of drag to it. Look at it picked, so I know what happened here. See how this is dipped in a paint coating? They didn't block the actual slider holes, and they put this all completely in the paint, so the inside bore holes have paint in there. So, glad I did this, because now I'm going to take it out, take it apart, take the boots off, and I'm going to take my boring brush and I'm going to clean in there and get rid of that paint. I've got a new bore brush I'm going to put right in there and clean out the paint, hopefully. You see that? Look at all the black paint coming out. Wow. So that would have caused these brakes to wear at an uneven and premature wear due to the slider pin not being able to slide at a nice free pace. Still something right in between there, right in the middle. So I'll continue until I get a nice clean feel smooth surface, and that one's pretty good already. There it is. Look at the piece that came out. That's a good lesson. You spend this time doing your brakes, you want to do them right. So now I'm going to put these boots back on. And you can see the inner lip, how they pop in there. Now I'm going to put some new Caliper silicone paste right on these pins. Look at that. Perfect. Well, I'm glad we discovered that together. Perfect. Now we're ready to assemble that. Now we're going to put the caliper bracket around the rotor, sit it up against the knuckle, and I'm going to install the bottom mounting bolts. There we go. Get the top one. Those are 14mm socket. It's gonna be so much nicer with that control arm out of the way. I'm just gonna snug these up, and I'm gonna get my torque wrench and torque them to the manufacturer's recommendations. So I've got my 14mm socket, and the specs, the manufacturer specs is 47 to 54 foot-pounds. You can guess what I'm going at. No, I said it at 54. Only because of the car, of the age. It's a 2011, so I know that things are worn. It's probably like the 4th brake job this car has gotten. Now I'm going to put the inner pad in. There we go. Line it right up. And the outer pad. Perfect. So now I've got the pads in the bracket. Before I mount the actual caliper, we've got to bring down the upper control arm and re-put that in the actual spot. I'm going to take a rubber mallet, see if I can tap that down in. Almost. Perfect. Okay, now I can put that lower upper control arm, shall I say, bolt through. Got a flat washer and the actual mounting bolt, nut, actually, sorry. Now that's in place, I'm going to mount the caliper. Comes with 2 new mounting bolts for the slider pins. Almost. Perfect. Okay, now I can put that lower upper control arm, shall I say, bolt through. Got a flat washer and the actual mounting bolt, nut tension, sorry. Now that's in place, now I'm going to mount the caliper. I'm going to put the mounting screws on the sliders. And now I'm going to get a rag. I'm going to clean the surface of this of the hip flexos. Make sure there's no dirt where the washer is going to sit. Actually, look at it and make sure there's no scratches or gouges. Looks good. So 1 washer on that side and 1 washer on this side. Now on this manufacturer, there's a pinhole right here, as you can see where my thumb finger is. So that flex hose has a mounting bracket. That's going to go right in there, like that. Just make sure that the hose stays lined up with that mounting slot. 14mm socket for the slider bolt and 17 on the inside here. I've got my torque wrench set at 24 foot-pounds. Do the same to the top. Alright. Now I can tighten down on my bleeder screw, which I started, and as you can see it has the alignment for that flex hose. There's a little pinhole in the caliper. You make sure that that alignment pin goes there. And now on a caliper banjo bolt, you just want to bottom it out and then just give it a good tighten. You want those washers to kind of get flattened. Perfect. Now I can undo my clamp on my hose. I'm going to open up my bleeder screw and let it gravity bleed. 10mm socket. I'm going to break this open. And while that is gravity bleeding, I'm going to torque down my upper control arm bolts. I'm just going to bottom these out and then torque them right down. Torque on the inner one is, inner bolt is 65 foot-pounds, and the torque on the outer is 65 foot-pounds. And as you can see, we are bleeding. Fluid is coming out. Now we have a steady stream of brake fluid coming out, no air bubbles. So I'm going to tighten up my bleeder screw. Just snug it down. I'm going to repeat this process on the other side, and then I'm going to pump my brakes up, check my fluid, and feel how the brake pedal. Look for leaks at my new banjo bolts on both my calipers. If you did not replace your caliper, then look for leaks on your bleeder screw. Make sure everything's good. Give it a road test. Now we're ready to put the tire back on. Now I like to put one lug nut on the bottom. Holds the rim tight to the hub. Then I can put the other 4 on. Hand tighten all the lug nuts right down. Make it snug. I'm going to lower the vehicle down. Put enough weight on the tire so that I can torque it to the manufacturer's specs. 21mm socket, and the manufacturer's specs is 80 foot-pounds for the lug nuts. I'm always going to do it in a star pattern. And one last time. And now you're ready to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.